Welcome to Corporate Cafecito,
a Latin and business podcast where we share insights and strategies to help entrepreneurs and professionals thrive.
Hi everyone, bienvenidos a Corporate Cafecito. Yo soy Nayeli Suarez Gas.
Y yo soy Carlos Butler Vale.
Today we have a very special guest. One of the things that we love doing is exposing people to people who are doing really cool things that you probably don't hear about because you're too busy or haven't thought about it, or you're like, wow, someone does that or focuses on that. And so today we have Alex Miranda here joining us. Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me.
Of course.
You're just crossing the bridge of one part of my life that I've never been to a podcast. So this is my
Nice,
first.
Fantastic.
So this is cool.
Well, it's a good one to start because we were just ranked number 7 in Latinoamerica podcast.
There we go.
Oh,
Yeah.
See? I'm becoming a celebrity now.
That's right. We're bringing you right in.
Well, a little bit about me. So I've been living in Chicago for almost 14 years. So came here in 2012 with my husband, and we actually wanted just to stay 6 months and kind of learn English. I'm from Brazil, hence the accent. Yeah, that was the idea, just to be here and kind of just experience the United States and go back to our lives there. But the very first month, we met a lot of folks. You know, Dennis has family here in Chicago, and we were connected through, the Brazilian community here. And that's how I got involved with Partners of the Americas and the Brazilian Film Festival. And then we just started coming back and forth. And
Back and forth from where?
From here to São Paulo, where I'm from.
Nice.
And where we lived and where we met. And then, I started helping with marketing for them. Had graduated a few years in my career, but was really starting my career still in Brazil. And then when I came here, I met a bunch of folks, great people that, inspired us to live
stay.
here, to stay. Yeah.
Nice. And what do you do? Or,
Yeah. No, go ahead.
What do you do here?
So I work for brand design experience agency called Knock from Knock on Wood. Yeah, so we do brand development, brand expression projects, everything from creating a brand from scratch or helping companies to evolve their branding to campaigns and content creation.
Wow.
And I'm specifically on the strategy side and also the growth side of the business. So doing intercultural marketing and inclusive marketing, and as well as growth markets,
So for those of you following along, intercultural and inclusive marketing is formerly known as originally ethnic marketing and then multicultural marketing. So the evolution, and Alex and I were talking before, I'm like, it sounds so much more nice. I don't know, warm to say inclusive or intercultural, because we are all mixed now.
Yeah.
And I think about, growing up in Chicago, one of the things is you can find good Brazilian food here and good Cuban food and good Puerto Rican food and great Mexican food. Like you can find all these amazing foods, and sometimes you take it for granted because in Chicago, we just have access to all of it. And then you go somewhere like, I lived in Dallas and I was like, where is everybody?
Yeah. I agree with you. And full disclosure, the folks, Alex and I have been friends for a long time. And I met Alex here in Chicago, and immediately we just connected. And one of the things that fascinated me was growing up Puerto Rican, I had always heard about the Puerto Rican community. Growing up in Elgin and then coming to Chicago, I had always heard about the Mexican community. But then I kept hearing about this Brazilian community, and I didn't really fully know how deep it went and how massive it is too. I mean, obviously the Brazilian population is massive. I mean, Brazil is a massive country, but to see that here and then to experience it through you, I think was fantastic. And did you study, by the way, multicultural marketing or marketing?
I took classes here in Chicago. So I did my bachelor's, my college degree in Brazil. I did advertising. And then when we decided to stay, I decided to go back to school and went to Roosevelt University
Yeah.
Oh,
here in
nice.
Chicago
Yep.
and did my, they call it IMC, which is Integrated Marketing
Yeah.
Communications. And then I took multicultural
Okay.
marketing classes there. But when I joined NOC, they were already constructing this idea of intercultural, and it's truly beautiful, like you said, because it's about the commonalities among
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
Yes.
rather than the segmentation of, which is really important for marketing too, because we don't have all the money of the world to
Yeah.
reach
Right. Right.
everybody.
Yeah.
But having this going the extra mile to finding what's common between these different cultures,
Yeah.
it's um, it's really important for us. So
And the reason why I brought that up is because when I first met you, I think you had just started, or not long after you had just started at Knock. And
right,
so I remember you going through
9 years
that
ago, I
transition.
guess,
Yeah,
8, 9,
exactly.
yeah.
Going through that transition. And it was really cool because I kept hearing about a lot of your projects. And one of the things that you mentioned is that you're also now been involved in the growth element of the
Right.
business as well. I do want to go back to some of the expressive marketing, I think is the term that you used,
Mm-hmm.
because I love all of those different elements of marketing, and particularly when you're thinking about it from an exclusive marketing perspective. But tell us a little bit about some of the growth work that you've been doing too.
Well, yeah. So it's been natural too. So I went from being creative in advertising in the copywriting, department to strategy, and now the growth, which is business development and kind of make sure that people understand what NOC does.
Was
And
that hard for you?
it's that's a great question. I like challenges,
Okay.
so I like to be challenged. So it's hard. It's not easy, but it's fun as well. So I like learning new things and interacting with people,
Yeah.
and so I love people. So that's why I think I'm in this career
Yeah.
still, because I have to understand people and I have to communicate with people and I have to be around people now within this
Yeah.
newish role. So a lot of networking, a lot of events, which I love. So yeah,
It's always, when you think about going from, I grew up in like lots of corporate positions and we never had anyone from marketing come to sales or sales go to marketing. There was
yeah,
like, we don't do that.
right. And I when I went from copywriter
Mhm.
to strategy, I was kind of, is this a good idea? Is this a good idea? And I did some information interviews with great folks, here in Chicago, and they were like, I think you're doing the right thing, like strategists need to be a great copywriters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and now within this transition to business development and growth, it's I've been using a lot of my skills from the other previous years because
Yeah.
what I know the language, I know how to
Right.
talk about it, and it's been great. Yeah,
I've always said like it's if you're going to go into sales, it's best to know everything about what you're selling.
right.
Yes.
Right. And so it makes you stronger because you
Yes.
know the details and you know what the capabilities are.
I agree. I think
Yeah.
some of the best sales leaders and people that I've worked with understand how the product is made, understand how the
Mm-hmm.
product is marketed, understand how it's distributed, so they know the supply chain
Mm-hmm.
element of it. And so I totally see this. And by the way, I'm a little jealous because it's not like he's getting sent to Alaska to do business development. Where were you sent?
Miami.
That's right.
Yeah, it's
So
not Alaska at all, but I want to
not
go
that
there.
You
Alaska
gotta
would be
say it
bad.
right. You gotta say it right.
Yeah.
Miami.
Miami.
Miami, yeah, welcome to Miami. No, it's great. Miami, it's such a booming market.
Yeah.
It's a great,
I
well,
feel like everyone
culturally,
there is gorgeous.
well, there's this beach culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beach
Yeah.
culture. That's
Yeah.
a hard word for me.
It was for me too for a long time.
Mine
So
was
it's,
sheet.
Oh,
I
sheet.
know, yeah. Sheet. You have to take your time
Yeah.
to say
Yes.
it. Yeah.
No, wait, I just said piece. Piece of paper.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some of those that are really hard.
So you do a lot of traveling back and forth, and then in addition to that, you've got
Yeah,
clients
we
pretty
are
much
kind
all
of
over the
developing
place.
that market and kind of getting to know folks and, finding opportunities. Because with the pandemic, even before that, but with the pandemic, a lot of companies discovered that market and started, for many reasons, taxes and quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gorgeous city and
Mm-hmm.
cities around. So a lot of companies moved there from New York, from San Francisco. And there's a great community, financial services company, technology, and we are kind of wanted to be part of that as well.
Yeah, I hear a lot. I've seen recently in the news that a lot of companies from California
Yeah.
are moving to Florida too,
And
Yeah.
Texas.
and
And
Texas. Yeah,
So there'll
Texas,
be a
yeah.
lot of job
yeah.
opportunities
So
down
it's very
there.
Yeah.
interesting.
So we're right there. So if you need us, if you need grant branding, we can definitely help.
What goes into a brand's identity? Like when we think of a brand, like I'll say like I used to work for Pepsi, so I'm gonna say Pepsi. But Pepsi, it's the logo, it's the, it's the commercials, like how they come across, like when we talk about like the Super Bowl's big
Hmm.
for Pep. Like what are some things that you think about going to like a brand essence? And I'm gonna tell you, I want you to think about it like a lot of us, myself included, are entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So we're not going to be able to reach someone like you for a long time.
Right.
So if we're starting off and we're doing starting a new business,
That's a
what
great
are some
angle.
things that you say, you know what, a brand needs this? Because this is going to be free advice. Free advice. Write this down.
Great
that's a great
advice.
angle. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that question.
And
So
then when you
it's
get enough money, you call Alex.
well, always happy to talk to anyone. Really,
Yeah.
we we do great, work for Fortune 500 companies, but also amazing work for entrepreneurs and small businesses and nonprofit organizations. But
Okay.
whenever an entrepreneur or a small company is thinking about their brand or evolving their brand or creating a brand from scratch, I always tell people, like if I'm giving an advice, like think about how your brand sounds. Like a brand usually has traits, human traits, even. What's the tonality of your brand? Where do you wanna the positioning of the brand? Meaning, what do you think people, what do you want people to think about your brand? When they remember you, right? So think about that and all the elements of the brand voice, right? So that's an exercise that we do with our clients. First we go through a brand framework exercise, which is all the brand positioning and the brand you know tonality and the pillars of the brand, which helps you create content for your company in the future. So um, your brand voice, and then from there we start going to a more visual identity part of it, which
Mm-hmm.
is logos and marks and shapes and forms. So we start with your voice, the brand voice. Like how do you want to how do you want your brand to sound
Yeah.
like?
I think sometimes people think that we all want our brand to be warm.
Right.
But I think about like, I pick on accountants a lot, but I think about an accountant. I'm like, I don't need a warm accountant
Yeah.
or a warm doctor. Like, I want a serious,
Yeah.
safe, structured. And
Knowledgeable.
so,
Yeah.
I think sometimes we shy away from things that may sound too defined. But if you want someone to know that your company is strong, or,
Right.
you have to find that
Yeah.
tonality and
Yeah, that makes that works for you, that works for your industry as well, right?
I think about what you said about like a warm accountant. It's like I rather you be really knowledgeable because I don't need you to be nice if at the end of the day I might go to
Yeah.
jail, right?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
I need you
Or
to
you're
make
losing
sure I
money.
stay out of, or
Yeah.
losing money. That's true.
My accountant is actually warm. One day I'm going to have him on here, Hector Arnie, because they're just really good people.
That's awesome.
But me regañan all the time. They're like, Nayeli, Nayeli. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, Alex, I've had the good fortune of actually being able to work adjacent to a lot of marketing people. I'm sure you have too, Nayeli. And one of the things that I always find fascinating is no matter whether or not you're a small business or a Fortune 500, there seems to be a lot of disconnect between what you think your brand is and what your actual brand positioning
Hmm.
is. And it doesn't matter where in the maturity curve you are. that's one thing that I have found, really interesting because your self-perception could be very different than from what your either target market is or your
Right.
actual customers, are. And then the other element of it is that it feels like nowadays almost it's like pinning the tail on the donkey. Marketing is changing or feels like it's changing so quickly. We haven't even talked about AI in marketing or anything like
Right.
that, which I'd love to actually talk about at some point if that's something that you feel comfortable, talking about, because I'm sure it's creeping into the work that you're doing, but like, I think about the TikTokers and I think about all these other like influencers, and it feels like everyone's getting their 15 minutes of fame and then sort of like
They
flailing
say this
out.
year is the
Yeah.
year the influencer goes away.
Well, but I've heard that for a few years now too, which I think
But
is really
this
interesting.
year.
This is it.
But
This is it. But not for podcasts, please.
Yeah.
But it does feel like a lot of the companies that I work with, are constantly sort of chasing their tail a little bit when it comes to that marketing and brand positioning and brand voice. Does that resonate?
Well, that's why we have to keep listening to our audiences and
Love that.
customers
Yeah.
and consumers. So that's because the consumer is always evolving, right?
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned earlier that a brand has human traits. So you kind of have to evolve with the consumer.
Hmm.
Sometimes, companies feel, disconnected to them. And that's why it feels like they don't know how to position themselves. And we've seen along the history, companies just disappearing, right? And why is that? Because they are not in connection. They're not connected to their consumers, like
Right.
um, Sears, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Love
I
Sears.
know.
yeah,
I remember
or
like doing family days at Sears
Oh,
and
you used to
like,
have our picture
yeah,
oh my
taken
gosh, yeah.
there.
Kmart.
They used to sell
Kmart.
popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still out there, a little bit here and there, but doesn't have that clout that used
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
because consumers evolved. We started shopping different ways, and you have to evolve with
Yeah.
them.
Social media generally a good thing for marketing or not? And I ask because I feel like every day I go on Threads or Facebook or whatever it is, and all I hear about are complaints from consumers that can go super viral super quickly.
Hmm.
And that's where there's a disconnect between either the marketing and the PR elements of it. But I feel like being a company these days with social media has to be difficult. Is it difficult
Yeah.
from a strategy side too? Like, does that
Well,
make it more difficult?
it's great for listening, right? So you can really listen to what the consumers are saying, but also consumers are there, so it is good.
Yeah.
They are good channels to be there too,
Right.
because you have to be in touch with your consumer, and it's kind of a one, street, one way,
Yeah.
conversation. Sometimes that how it needs to feel
Yeah.
to be authentic. So I would say yes, it's great. It's a great avenue. It's a great channels to be there. But again, you have to kind of monitor and kind of take a pulse on what people are saying, so
Hmm.
you can kind of address right
Good answer.
away.
Good
Yeah.
answer. I like that. It's
Yeah.
true. I mean, I think about the perils,
Yeah.
but that's just because I'm on the side where I'm seeing people constantly complain about certain things.
I think though, the reason why social media has gotten so tied to the brand is because it feels like when you do social media, you get an immediate response, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you go on Threads and you blast them, like they have a team that's responding to that, where
Yeah.
Right.
the customer service line might be,
Yeah.
have a 1 hour wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
There's
That's a good point.
some brands that are doing so well with social media, like Duolingo. Have you
Yeah.
have you seen Duolingo's
They're doing
channels?
fantastic
wasn't
work.
Duolingo started by a Latino?
I
I
think
think it was.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they are doing amazing. So their tone of voice, going back to that subject, it's fantastic. Like it's very funny and
Yeah.
And they experiment a lot.
A
They
lot,
recently
a
killed
lot.
Duo, the owl, and then
I
brought them back. Like
Yeah.
it was a whole thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
I think about like different apps and their voice, and I think about like the ones I've almost deleted because they were too, like, I turn off notifications, but it's just like, stop.
Overwhelming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stop
Yeah.
with this. And I think there's a right way for a brand to do it, to like interact or have it like almost like consumer led, where the consumer chooses the engagement level. I like Duolingo, but then I deleted it because the owl would be like, "You haven't practiced in 12 days." I'd be
Right.
like,
Oh
"Go
yeah, yeah, yeah.
away."
Yeah. Leave me alone.
Every day I get that email from
Yeah.
Duo. Please log on and do your. And all I'm doing is learning chess. I'm like, it's not that serious.
But
But
I think that the fact that we all know that brand and we know
absolutely,
what it does
Yeah.
and we know, I think that that's where you feel that connection to that brand,
yeah,
that you all know what it does. To me, that's where it elevates from like being like a regular brand to being like a mainstream brand when
Yeah.
we can all say what it does.
Right.
absolutely. Can we talk about AI for a little bit, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Because I remember this past Super Bowl, there being quite a few controversies about companies, big companies, um, particularly in CPG, using AI in their commercials or almost entirely or 100% AI.
Hmm.
And a lot of folks being disappointed by that or angry by that for a number of reasons. One, the creative aspect of it. I think there's a lot of back and forth around AI stealing IP and
Yeah.
things like that, right? So that's one thing. But then there's also the AI slop element of it. So at the same time, working with companies, and I'm sure you've seen it too, there's a lot of pressure for companies to
Produce
bring
quicker.
and produce
Yeah.
AI, and through AI, and they're cutting staff, and so like they're relegating some of this stuff. So how is that changing, some of the work that you're doing, and how does that influence how you advise your clients?
Well, for us, AI has been great in a way that it's been helping us to expedite some of the work.
Okay.
That's what
Hmm.
everybody's actually just dipping their toes in
Yeah,
the
we could like
water,
outsource our
really.
brain. Go look for this data and bring it back to me.
Exactly,
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So
yeah.
Hmm.
everybody's kind of experimenting, and for us, it's been like that too. So we are for research, like just initial thoughts, ideas, just kind of bouncing ideas and understanding what's there. Because AI, especially Gen AI, it's just picking stuff that's already there,
Yeah.
right? It's nothing new. It's not imagining,
Right.
Okay.
okay? So for us,
That's how I use AI.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's helping us just expediting our thoughts and kind of chatting through it. Um, from a creative perspective, our policy is like zero AI because for us it's about the craft, it's about the design, it's
Right.
about
It's an art. It
it's
is.
it is an
Yeah.
art. Yeah. So we can use AI to kind of help put together some ideas and kind of
Like
rough
brainstorming
brainstorm,
or research.
or even just creating an idea of a storyboard if it's a film or
Yes.
anything like that. But the final product it'll be the craft of doing that. So
Right.
that would make a brand special, because there's that human element, in the work.
I mean, I don't know about a lot of people doing zero AI and the creative aspect of it. So I think that's actually really cool. And I wonder if that is kind of like, I've heard of in some areas this idea of human in the loop, meaning like
Right.
if you're going to be outsourcing some of these things, you always want to make sure that you're having a human. But now we're talking about creative, we're talking about design.
Right.
And so it's cool and refreshing to hear that at the end of the day, you feel the work is so important that you still want
Right.
humans to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, I work with a lot of marketing agencies. And one of the things that I really love is so I don't have a creative brain. I still draw people with
I'm,
sticks.
I'm sure you will.
You
You
you do
have.
have a creative brain. You may not
This is
be,
creative.
yeah.
But what I've always loved is when I could like tell someone like, so I was singing like something like this, and then they bring it back, and I was like, I didn't say this, but this is magical. Like, how'd you get to this?
Can we pause though for a
Yeah.
second? Because I'm gonna challenge you. I think you are one of the most creative people I know. Like
I'm like
you are,
business creative.
yeah, but that's still creative to
It
me.
is,
And I
yeah.
think the reality is like I think helping people with their brand. So you work with a lot of corporate brand. You work with a lot of personal brand,
Mhm.
right? And you have to be able to see the individual. You have to be able to see the environment they're in, and you have to be able to figure out how to get them from point A to point
Okay.
B.
Okay,
That's
Carlos.
creative.
Thank
So
you,
I just want to
Carlos.
say, and I know that when I've come to you with like a little
And
bit
I'm
of
like, no.
brainstorming, you're
Yeah,
you're great at
yeah.
brainstorming. So I just wanted to say that
Okay,
really
I totally
quickly.
sorry.
agree.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody are creative. Every single person in this planet is creative. Just need to exercise it,
Yeah.
or let it let it shine, you know.
I'm with you though. I'm stick figures all the way.
Yes,
So
I get.
yeah, I'm not the person. It's funny. I always get jealous of like graphic designers. Like I see some of the beautiful stuff that they put together, and I'm like, and that's the kind of stuff where I'm like,
Yeah, I'm like,
I could have
wow.
never
Like we
imagined
read the
that.
same thing and you came up with that. That's
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
But I do think I like what you're saying though, like the storyboarding, things like that. Like there have been
Yeah.
times where I have gone to AI and say, I'm thinking about this, but I have no idea what it could look like visually. Can
Mm-hmm.
you brainstorm a few designs and at
Yep,
least it gives you kind of a better,
absolutely.
Just an
idea of where to
idea
go.
of
Yeah.
what you're thinking and selling, helping selling the idea too,
Yeah.
right? Because you mentioned IP, right? So we're very, very strict and freaky about confidentiality and
Mhm.
our clients, you know, IP, and make sure that we don't put stuff in AI, you know, models that
Right.
it's gonna
Right.
be out there.
Right.
So we want to make sure that to protect our clients, protect ourselves too, you know, like to not use other people's work and, you know, but using the best way possible, you know, just to help us get there a little faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You
love
know,
it.
Alex, I think, and I keep wanting to say Alex.
Say it.
Spanish.
Say Alex.
Alex.
Yeah.
My dad's name is Alejandro and my son's name is Alejandro. And so my
Ah,
dad goes by Alex and sometimes we call my son
so it's in the
Alex. But
family.
yeah.
Yeah.
But if I was a small brand, like I know every time when I go into my email, I get like 100 spams of like, we can help you with your brand and blah blah blah.
Right.
How does one find you? Like when is a brand ready for someone like your talent? Like when is a good time to engage you and
To
how do you
knock
engage you?
to knock on
To
Knock's
knock on
door.
Knock's
Not,
door.
not,
I like that. See.
Well, just an anecdote. So Knock, it's Knock because Lily Hall, it's the founder and CEO of the company. Hi, Lily.
Hi, Lily.
It's on knock on wood for luck.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's but knock on wood,
Yeah,
and our
hey, that's
knocks are
right.
is
We're
really
knocking on
cool
the
too.
door.
So yeah.
You guys can take it if you want.
No, yeah. So I feel like if a brand, if a company, small company, entrepreneur wants to chat about their brand or branding, you know, challenges or opportunities, if you will, I mean, just start now. You know, like you don't need to wait for, you know, have X dollars revenue to engage a professional. You know, it doesn't hurt. You know,
Yeah.
it's conversations started. You know, just
Hmm.
being consultative and get a feel for what you know what you need and get the conversation started. I'd
And
say,
if anything, if it's not the right time, at least you have a better idea of
yeah,
Yeah.
where the gap might be,
exactly.
or where you are in your journey. That
Mm-hmm.
can
Yeah,
then say, "Oh, okay, now I know that I'm ready for X,
yeah.
Y, Z."
And if you're not ready for a full agency, you know, like so many great professionals, freelancers that can help you get, you know, to the next level and the
Right.
next level, and then engage with an agency whenever you're ready. You know.
I I've always known that you of your love of people, but one thing I will say is in your responses, I can feel like the genuine care for the experience of the individual.
Right.
And I think,
Thank you.
through, of course, and throughout the years as I've known you, I've seen Knock grow. And having people like you at an agency like that, I think is exactly why you're able to reach that level of growth because a lot of this is about trust.
Right.
You have to be able to trust the individual. You have to know that you're being cared for and cared about. And so I appreciate I appreciate in your responses like that level of care that you're demonstrating.
I
So
appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, Lily. I don't know how much time we have left, but I would love to talk a little bit about some fun things that you do, if that's okay.
Fun things.
Um, you know, what was that?
Yeah. I was like, well, we don't have that much time.
Oh, we don't have enough time.
Yeah.
Maybe one or two fun things.
Yeah. Tell us one or two
Yeah,
fun things.
so I
Yeah.
know you've been involved with the community. I know you've been involved in some other things. So just tell us about like when Alex isn't working, doing strategy, helping
When you take
clients.
off the blazer,
Yeah,
who are you?
exactly. Right. And the cool shoes. Right.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I've been in a phase of restaurants and cocktails, so
Yes.
that's fun for me. And traveling.
Yeah.
I love traveling, so Dennis and I just, whenever we have the time, we go to a new place. You know, I was just in Brazil 2 weeks ago, and we went to Salvador Bahia, which is on the northeast, you know,
Nice.
north of São Paulo, a place where, you know, received the most slaves in Brazil, if not ever, from the
Wow.
Americas.
Wow.
So the culture there is fascinating. It's a blend of African culture with Portuguese, with Dutch, you know, like there's this mix of culture that you can feel in the architecture, in the food, in the music, in the people. So it was fascinating. So I love just learning, like
Yeah.
going places and learning with food and, you know, just
I love, you
the
know,
true culture experience,
I
you know.
think so many times when we think about countries, we think about them as like one identity.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of Afro mestizos in
Yeah,
Mexico too. And there was the freedom of the womb, so you couldn't be born a slave.
right.
And so we have like a lot of cultures, and they say like El Son de la Negra, the mariachi song, is very much focused on like the love for this African woman. And I think, you know, and even like in the northern part, there was a huge influx of like Chinese immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's where there's, and I'm like, no wonder we all love Chinese food. Like
Yeah.
it's so
Right.
good.
There was
But
a lot of that happened in Brazil too.
yeah, and we
Yeah.
have like a whole community in Monterrey that only speaks Chinese.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
didn't know
just
that.
it's
Yeah.
like to me it's just really fascinating to see how we still, you know, like a lot of times you think about the US as a melting pot, but I think we're all a bunch of little melting
Oh,
pots. Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, and I knew about your love of restaurants and cocktails. We've enjoyed a few together, which is very nice. We always love to highlight community involvement too. So, anything from a community involvement perspective that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the Brazilian Film Festival. You know, it was my initial descent to Chicago, really.
Nice.
So this is part of the Brazilian Film Festival called Mostra Brazilian Film Festival. Happens every November. Ariane Friedel founded the festival for the simple reason to bring a little bit more about Brazil to Chicago specifically in the Midwest, and it's films with a social conscience. So
Love
it's
that.
about showing Brazil beyond soccer, beyond carnival, beyond samba, you know,
Yeah,
all of that, and
we do love all that too.
and we
Yeah.
love all of that. But it's about, you know, arts and politics and culture and environment. So that's what you're gonna see in those movies.
Nice.
So that's a plug, but you know, and this festival, it's part of a organization called Partners of the Americas, which initiated 65 years ago with John F. Kennedy through a specific program called Alliance for Progress, where they would send. John F. Kennedy had this idea of, you know, people to people diplomacy.
Love that.
So they would send folks from the U.S. to Latin America, and including Brazil, so they can get to know people
Because
there.
Brazil is
It's
part of
Latin
Latin
America.
America.
Exactly. We're all Latinos. And then that evolved to Partners of the Americas. And Partners of the Americas work with like sister states.
Yeah.
If it's a bigger country in Latin America like Brazil, we're divided by
Multiple probably.
states.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So São Paulo is the sister state of Illinois. So it was very convenient for me being from São Paulo. But like, if it's a smaller country like Uruguay, so like Minnesota is partner with Uruguay, and Baltimore is partner with Rio de Janeiro. So there's this connections. So we do this film festival, we do like talks, we do architecture exchanges through Partners of the Americas.
That's so cool.
I know. I
So
love that. That's really quite
it's an
another.
organization that people don't hear about, but it's been there for over 60 years.
Well, guess what? When your episode airs, we'll definitely would love to have the link to
Yeah.
that so
I'll
that we
definitely
can go
send
ahead
that.
and
Yeah.
share that out. I think I remember part of my first year having met you. I went to the Brazilian Film Festival and saw like one of the most captivating Brazilian films, and it was just such an awesome experience. So thank you,
Yeah,
and thanks for
absolutely.
highlighting it because I think you're right. You know, and that's part of what we love to do at Corporate Cafecito is to just make sure we get the word out about just different experiences, and it's not just for people from Brazil; it's for anybody. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
And I
please
mean,
enjoy.
we're so lucky to have so many contributors, I think. And just you
Yes.
could go to the like Latino Film Festival, the Brazilian
Yes.
Film Festival. And I think, we always talk about how we support each other, and we support each other with our dollars
I agree.
and
Exactly.
showing up for
Yeah,
each
showing
other.
up.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
we will definitely be there. Maybe we'll
Yeah,
broadcast
that'd be
Yeah.
nice.
from there too.
Yeah, that'd be
Hey.
great. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
honestly, Alex, thank you so much
Thank
for
you for
taking the
having
leap
me.
for
Yeah.
taking the leap of faith, for being on your
Yes.
first podcast and having that be Corporate Cafecito.
No
I
better
am
way
going to
to start.
say
Yeah.
Brazil is, and this is something because my son taught me recently. Brazilians are not considered Hispanics because Hispanic is you have to hablar español,
Yeah.
but it is part of Latin America,
America.
so
Yeah.
you're a Latino.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, how did you learn that, Alex?
Hispanohablante.
Hispanoparlantes,
Yes,
yeah. And so it
yes,
was just like,
so-
I was like, huh. I'm like, well, we all say Latinos anymore anyway.
Yeah.
So
We're all Latinos.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing a fresh of breath air too, a breath of fresh air too, I should say, to Corporate
fresh of
Cafecito,
breath
because
air.
I don't know. I was telling Nayeli, I was like, I don't think we've had since I've been on, we have had anybody from Brazil. So, I'm not. Nayeli's been doing this for years, but it's just always cool to have other people
Yeah,
here from
different
different
perspectives,
backgrounds and
so,
different
yeah.
perspectives.
Well, you
so.
had your Brazilian connection. Now, if you need other Brazilians, I can.
Yeah.
To do
Awesome.
right
Maybe
thing.
one day we'll have Lily here too.
Yeah.
Totally.
Awesome.
Perfect. Well, yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, for hearing about him. If you want, we will put Alex's information so you could link in with him or reach out to him if you have branding questions, if you want to explore your opportunities for your brands or just need a second brain to connect with intercultural marketing.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
Thank
And
you so much.
And for fun activities too, like the Brazilian Film Festival, which again we'll be joining, and we'll see you there.
Yeah.
See you there.
Ya nos
Awesome.
invitamos. All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.